Good morning. Good morning. That's better. My name is Mike Carney. I'm the music director here. My pronouns are he, him. And instead of chimes, we are going to start with an opening hymn to get us started for our outside-in flower communion service on this beautiful day that's going to help all those flowers to grow. It is Mother Earth, Beloved Garden. You'll find the lyrics in this green insert, or you can also turn to number 1067 in the teal hymnal if that's your preference. Either way, please rise in body or spirit or both and join me for our opening hymn.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whether you are here in person or attending online, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. Good morning. I am Linda Coulter. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a worship associate at this congregation. For those of you who are new today, let me take a moment to tell you about the UUCC. Our congregation acknowledges that we are gathering on the original lands of the Erie and of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, also known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about these complex and sometimes painful histories, to care for the land we inhabit, and to show respect to the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather here now. Our congregation is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. As a Unitarian Universalist, or UU congregation, we are a non-creedal community. This means we do not require anyone to subscribe to a specific set of beliefs to be a member of the congregation. Instead, we live by a covenant that encourages ethical behaviors, affirms democracy, celebrates the worth of each individual, and unites us in a search for meaning and in reverence for the great mystery that is life. We are a welcoming congregation which affirms all persons who choose to participate in the life or activities of our community, regardless of color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical or mental abilities, or economic status. By the way, happy Pride Month, everybody. If you would like to learn more about us, please take a moment to fill out the card found in the pew rack in front of you. Leave that in the offering plate as it comes by you later in the service. Somebody will contact you to answer your questions and help you feel welcome to our community. You may also visit our website at uucleveland.org and email us from that site for more information. Now, as we enter sacred space, please silence any audible cell phones, alarms, and other devices to avoid distractions during this service. We're going to have our chalice lighting, and I believe I did see Lori Albright. Yay! Lori Albright is here she comes, racing to the front. Thanks, Lori. Among other hats that Lori wears at the UUCC, she will be a delegate to the UU General Assembly soon. Thank you, Lori. Let us join our voices together as we read our chalice lighting, which is our congregational covenant, which is found on the yellow card in the rack in front of you. We cultivate trust in one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Thank you for your enthusiasm, Lori. And thank you all for your trust in our leadership that we would not put you out on the East Lawn in the rain today. And you have shown up in good faith. Our covenant is in many ways aspirational as we learn daily. But I am grateful to know that we are here together continuing that work. I invite you to hear these words by Mark Nepo. The heart is very much like a miraculous balloon. Its lightness comes from staying full. Meeting the days with our heart prevents collapse. This is why 90-year-old widows remain committed to tending small flowers in the spring. Why 10-year-olds with very little to eat care for stray kittens, holding them to their skinny chests. Why painters going blind paint more. Why composers going deaf write symphonies. This is why when we think that we can't possibly try again, we let out a sigh that goes back through the centuries, and then, despite all our experience, we inhale and try again. In that spirit of lightness of hearts and with our miraculous balloons, may we enter into worship together. We are going to sing together, and the words are in your order of service because we weren't expecting you to have hymnals available, so you don't really need to open a hymnal for it. But before we sing, I invite you to take a moment and welcome one another into this space. This is the time when we get to say good morning and greet one another with loving eyes.
Good morning.
I was reminded that I didn't introduce myself this morning, and so I'll just say that I'm the Reverend Randy Partain, minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. My pronouns are they, them, and it is indeed a delight to be with you, even though we are indoors on this flower ceremony. And if you're joining us online, this is a time when we typically take to share our joys and concerns in the worship service. And if you are wanting to share something you're carrying with you today, you can put that in the comments below. This is a flower ceremony also, and so a lot of the things that we'll do in person, our folks who are joining online will not be able to participate in. So if you do have a device and you're not coming forward to put a stone in water, and you would like to take a picture of whatever beautiful flower you have brought with you, you can post it to people of UUCC and share that beauty with other folks online on our Facebook page, if that's something you'd like to do. And then people who are not with us in person can still appreciate some of the beauty that we share here with one another. And if you did not bring a flower with you today, hopefully if you did bring a flower, you still have it with you. And if you did not bring one with you, there will be baskets, I think, that the ushers have. Do we still have a couple ushers? So as you are coming forward for joys and concerns, if you pass through the narthex, you'll be able to get a flower from the ushers so that you'll have it with you for the service. For folks in person, there are opportunities to write in the book any joys or concerns that you want to share with folks. I'll just place a stone of gratitude for the Pride March yesterday. It was a march, but it was a festive march. And yeah, you can cheer for that. I want to share not just gratitude for the people who marched with us, but gratitude for the people who rode the RTA downtown with us and then couldn't actually march in the march itself, but were along the sidelines, because the people along the sidelines who are cheerful and supportive and exuberant make that a more meaningful occasion than if we were just walking down the street. There were a couple of megaphone menaces that had things to say, and those hit us all a little bit differently, even if there are only a couple of them. There were abundant voices that were in celebration and affirmation, and especially there were those few voices who were standing on the sides of the street a little bit ahead of where people might be shouting some hateful things, saying, "Get ready, get ready," so that we knew when to start chanting a little bit louder that love is stronger than hate, and we could drown out people with big megaphones. So whether you were there marching, or whether you were there cheering us on, or whether you were standing there saying, "Get ready," or whether you were just celebrating with us from afar, thank you for your participation in the Pride March. We also have a stone in remembrance of Patrick, who sang a song that we're going to hear in just a little while, "What a Wonderful World," to his children. A stone of remembrance for Patrick. And a stone of gratitude from Jess Levy to the Director of Lifespan Faith Development Search Committee. The team has been hard at work interviewing potential successors to Allan, Georgia. And Jess says, "I couldn't ask for a better team." That team has been working hard. Thank you all. What else do you carry with you today? I invite you to come forward and place a stone in the water for any joys or concerns you'd like to acknowledge this morning.
We place a stone for those joys and concerns that were shared online today. And a stone for those things that we cannot yet name, that we carry with us. And I should place a stone of care and healing for Allan, Georgia, who is homesick today, which is why I'm going to be reading what Allan would have shared, but a stone of care and healing for Allan. Fortunately, Allan does not just speak off the cuff, and so he was able to share with me some words that he had prepared for this morning. And I didn't want you to miss his ideas and thoughts, and so I'll share them with you in Allan's absence. He recalls a time at a coffee shop when he was with somebody, and both of them had ordered a cappuccino, and noticed that while waiting in a coffee shop, you become a part of the ritual of that space. We may not think of it as a ritual, but there's the line of customers, there's the sounds of the people around you, there's the whir of the grinder, the smell of the beans. And we know that it's a ritual because we become a part of it. It fills our senses. It fills our ears and noses. It's full of movement and color. And eventually we drink that ritual. We take it inside of us. We make it a part of us. Ritual maybe gets a bad rap sometimes. But the barista at this particular coffee shop was very skillful and very practiced. And if you have been to a coffee shop and gotten some kind of cappuccino or frothy drink, then you know that there is a way that they can put a cup of cappuccino on the counter and it will just have this beautiful design on it. A bloom of flowers or a petal that looks intricately striped and perched right on top of the cup. True works of art. Baristas maybe don't get enough credit either. And so Allan, or Allan's companion, said, "It's almost too beautiful to drink." And the barista, in all of her coffee wisdom, said, "Well, you have to drink it because it isn't going to last, so you better drink it before it disappears." It turns out that making art with milk foam
is a lesson in the temporary nature of beauty. So when fascist governments were taking over Europe in the 1930s, there were a range of religious leaders that responded with courage, confronting these forces and often giving their lives, or at least their livelihoods, in the process. People like Primo Levi, Viktor Frankl, Dietrich Bonhoeffer not only confronted the horrors, but they also never stopped asking questions. They never stopped making meaning, even of the suffering that was all around them. And Norbert Čapek belongs in that list. And he belongs in any conversation that Unitarian Universalists have about how our commitment to help create a more just world comes out of a communities of people who care enough to love one another and share that love with the world. Čapek was from the Czech Republic and spent his youth bouncing around different religious communities. That part of Europe is actually a place where a lot of religious diversity evolved, and Čapek benefited from that in a way. He arrived in Newark, New Jersey in the 1920s as minister of a Baptist church and would go on to face 2 heresy cases against him. So he was clearly on the pathway to something outside traditional religious groups. So it's no surprise that he and his wife discovered a Unitarian church in Orange, New Jersey, and Čapek's life was changed forever. When he returned to Europe in the early 1920s, before the terrors that would follow, before his community was scattered, before he was arrested and sent to Dachau, and before the Nazis murdered him, Čapek helped to lead a revival among liberal religious communities that tapped into deep cultural roots, but also helped to foster a new expression of human dignity, peace, equity, and justice. Čapek's congregation was in Prague, and it was full of people from Catholic and Jewish backgrounds. And like many of us, they carried a lot of different feelings, a wide array of feelings about those backgrounds and the practices that they learned in them. So he needed to find a way to capture what it meant to be together without using something from those traditions, something new, something that would open people's hearts in a new way for a new kind of community. So Čapek gathered some flowers and invited his congregation to do the same. And together they blessed them and they consecrated themselves. They blessed the flowers and they consecrated themselves by acknowledging that the gifts of the earth can be a pattern for how we give and care for one another. Čapek invited his congregation to see in these flowers the diversity of their community, the uniqueness of each member, and he preached the value of companionship and invited everyone there to realize that by opening up their hearts, their own beloved community could be like a flower in bloom, opening itself up to the world as an invitation and an offering to another way of living together with mutual respect and care and love. Flowers are like cappuccinos. They are fleeting and temporary embodiments of beauty. And Norbert Čapek understood a great deal about the nature of ritual to have placed flowers at the center of this ritual meant to unify Unitarian Universalist communities and celebrate all the beauty that we cultivate in the world around us. May our ceremony carry that spirit with it.
It's time for our morning offertory. Today, our offering will be shared with the Lake Erie Native American Council. The council is a Native American-led 501c3 nonprofit organization that aims to preserve, maintain, and promote Native American culture in Northeast Ohio. Your generosity will help fund the cultural events and classes to the indigenous community of Northeast Ohio throughout the year. Please place your offering, cash or check, made payable to UUCC in the collection plate as it is passed. You may also contribute via Cash App to $UUCC44122. Please use the memo line to indicate today's date and our plate recipient, LENAC. That is LENAC. Thank you. try again. We have a poem by Maggie Smith, Good Bones. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird, and for every kind stranger, there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking through a real trash heap trips on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful.
I don't know if I agree with Maggie. But it is a way of perceiving the world. How do you perceive the world when you think about this place we share, this planet that we share with so many other people? Do you think it's at least 50% terrible? Is that a conservative estimate? Or do you see it differently? I don't know. Maybe it changes from day to day. If the world was our house and we were walking through it with a future generation trying to sell it to them, what would we say about it? Would there be some places that we just wouldn't walk them through and say, we haven't fixed any of this yet, but the place has good bones and you could really make this beautiful? We didn't do anything to take responsibility for some of these rooms, but you could make this beautiful. This place has a really good start to it, this world of ours. And then I think, what if this poem about how we see the world is really an invitation to us to make the world a little more beautiful according to our opportunities and abilities? I think the poem does have some different resonance. It resonates differently, whatever that is. It resonates differently with people who have owned a home, perhaps. When we owned our first home in Houston, it had been fixed up by a builder. I guess you could say it was flipped, because they took the place, made it pretty, and then sold it. The person we bought it from never lived in it. They put great double-pane windows in that were energy efficient and fantastic. They were beautiful travertine tile floors. It was so beautiful, in fact, that it took me a while to think of it as mine. It looked like somebody else's choices, and I needed to maintain it for them somehow. They had made it pretty, and I needed to keep it that way. Of course, it did feel like ours when we had to deal with the problems. And some of those problems weren't the surface-level things that you could see. You know, the cricket on the chimney had not been installed properly. So there was some water intrusion that we didn't really know about until it was a problem. Something that was hidden when you just walked through the house. There was an addition on the house. I wasn't going to say this part. It's traumatizing for Joy, who is here, but sorry. Cover your ears for a second. It was an addition on the house, and at some point, whoever put that addition on the house had not connected the foundation with the original foundation. And so and foundations are already a problem in Houston, so this beautiful travertine tile, right at this seam, would keep cracking because they would just shift a little bit, and it was like a little hinge that would keep cracking that beautiful, beautiful travertine tile. That was ours now. That was ours. So we put a rug over it. But also the place was ours. I mean, we could do whatever we wanted with it. We could paint the walls. We could have changed the floors if we wanted to. We kind of liked the travertine, but we didn't. We could put new fixtures in the kitchen sink if we didn't like the way that we could remodel whatever we wanted to. It was ours. We could put solar panels on the roof, and we did. We didn't have to ask the owner's permission. We just looked at each other and said, "You want to?" And we said, "Yes." And so we did it because we owned the place. We could do what we wanted. We didn't have to keep it a certain way. It was ours. Most days, the problems that we faced in that space were not really the thing that we focused on anyway. Because our house was a place where friends gathered, and there was a lot of joyous laughter. There was a lot of deep conversation. There was a lot of really good moments of relationship that happened in that place. It was a place where good food was shared. And when it wasn't filled with other people's voices and laughter, it was a place of solace and refuge and peace for me. It was my space. House meant a lot more than just the problems. It was a home. And the house might have had some issues, but the home was really what mattered. And I was responsible for that too. I owned that aspect of it too. I could have told people to stay away. I could have made it a really cluttered space that didn't feel good to me. I had to take ownership of that piece of it as well. And maybe Maggie, in this poem, where she says that the world is half terrible, at least as a conservative estimate, but it has good bones, maybe there's a piece of what she's saying that gets at this. That some of the problems, even problems with the foundation of some things, don't matter as much as we let them sometimes. The world is a fixer-upper in some ways. I mean, there are some problems. When we look at the world, there are things that we need to address. There were lots and lots of people that were cheering along the sides of the road yesterday. Lots and lots of people that were jubilant and encouraging and enthusiastic. And also, there's other voices. There's other challenges in the world. When the person who sold us the house in Houston purchased it, their intention was they were going to make it pretty so that somebody else would buy it. They would walk somebody else through the place and say, "Look at how pretty this place is." The world isn't like that. We are not just fixing it up to make it pretty. We're not flipping it, We're not fixing it up so that future generations will walk through it and say, "Oh, this is a really beautiful place. I think I want to live here," and then discover the problems later. That's not our role in this world of ours. We're not called on to make it pretty enough for a sale to go through. We're called on to make the world an inheritable home for generations to come, to create a beauty that will last. And we can each do that in all sorts of ways. We don't all have to do that in the same way. We each can cultivate a more beautiful world in our own relationships, in our own lives. We each have opportunities to do things that contribute to the resale value of this world of ours, that contribute to it being a meaningful inheritance for future generations. We might not be inspired to do those things if we feel like the world is half terrible, at least. It's a choice how we look at the world. We make choices about how we view things and what we attend to. I could have chosen to focus on pipes that were corroded in our attic and leaking in such little teeny tiny ways that we didn't know that they needed to entirely be replaced until there was real issue with the way. There were a lot of water things in Houston. There are always a lot of water things in Houston. I could have focused on the foundation always cracking the travertine. I could have focused on lots of problems. And I would have thought, this house is terrible, at least half terrible. But that's a choice. And what I chose to focus on was the amazing relationships that were built there, the times that were shared with other human beings in that space. We made it into something. We made it beautiful. Even the parts that we thought were pretty to start with, we made it beautiful. So we could, when we look at the world, say, this world is worthy of my delight. This world is worthy of my efforts and my contributions. The future generations that are going to inherit this are going to be so grateful to me if they even recognize what I've done. My simple acts of kindness matter. We could tell all kinds of stories. We could focus our attention in a lot of different ways. It's a choice. And even if the world doesn't always seem worthy of our effort, we can name that we just feel better when we are contributing to a more beautiful world. If we want to be completely selfish about it, we feel better when we are doing things that make the world a more beautiful place, a more peaceful place, a more loving place. A world that draws even a tiny bit closer to a vision of wholeness because we nudged it in some simple but intentional way. It's almost a different definition of ownership. When we own a home, it is true that we can do whatever we want with it. It's ours, we can do what we want. But we share the world with a lot of other people. And so we are responsible to all of our co-owners when we think about how we create a more beautiful world. We could go around treating it like we can just do whatever we want because we own the place. But we share the world with an awful lot of people. So it matters what we do and how we understand that responsibility of ownership, understand that responsibility of what kind of world we create. But this place could be beautiful, right? You could make it beautiful. I hope you all have flowers. Is there anybody that is not holding on to a flower at this point? If so, I think the ushers have a couple extra. If you pop up your hand, someone will put a flower in it. Okay, we've got someone that needs a flower up here. Do we still have ushers in the back? Okay. They might be doing other important things. We've got Mark Weber is walking toward you, and you're taking flowers in a different direction, so make sure Mark gets a flower. Thank you. And then up here, was there another hand? Over here? All right, we are going to bless these flowers. This is not something you say aloud. This is not a thing. I know Unitarian Universalists hate to be told what to say. You hate having things scripted. I know this. Some of you love having things scripted because then you don't have to think about what to say. But some of you really hate it. And so, I'll take one too. Thank you. This is a thing that I do. This is not scripted either. This is a thing that I do. When I set up chairs for a small group, I often set them up for one less than what we actually need because I forget to count myself. So, don't do that. Include yourself in this. We will bless these flowers, and then we will do something with them to consecrate ourselves. The flower that you're holding on to is not the flower you're going to walk out of here with. I'll just warn you. If you've never been to a flower ceremony, don't get too attached. Let us bless the flowers that we hold. May these blossoms remind us that beauty need not be permanent to be appreciated. May these flowers remind us that beauty will still be present regardless of whether we choose to attend to it. That beauty need not always be spectacular or breathtaking, but our willingness to behold it might make it so. So it is with kindness and love and compassion and all of the many ways we each make the world more beautiful. Our acts need not be permanent, memorable for all time, not even noticed, really. We don't have to be spectacular. And yet, in so many ways, you are. It is going to be tempting not to listen to what I'm about to say. You are going to be tempted to say things because what I'm about to say might feel a little uncomfortable. I invite you to take the flower that you're holding. Take a moment to look around you. Get up and move if you need to. But I invite you to give the flower that you're holding to someone else and just spend a moment of silence. Just look at one another and appreciate that you are looking at a creator of beauty in this world. You are looking at a co-owner of this place that we beautify together. You don't have to say anything. If you want to, you can just say thank you. And I will give us a little bit of time to exchange flowers. You might do it more than once even. There'll be a little music so we're not just in silence. But I invite you to have a moment to just connect with another human being and exchange beauty. noticed some of you needed to take a little break and sit down, but I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing together Color and Fragrance. The words are on your insert. If you are joining us online today, I just remind you that you do not need a physical flower to share something of beauty, and you don't even have to share it with this community if you don't want to. But if you would like to share something on the People of UUCC Facebook page, that's a way that the congregation kind of communicates with each other. And if you have wound up with a flower that you just think is more beautiful than the one that you started out with, then feel free to take a picture of that. You can post it online and share that beauty with other folks. And we can include people who aren't even here physically present with us in our sharing of beauty with one another. Speaking of beautification, we are still recruiting painters to paint this hallway. June 7th and 8th are when those painting shifts will be. Ray Gonzalez is the one organizing that, and you can email Ray or just catch him today and say that you're willing to do that. We have a couple, we've narrowed things down. Del Salza has narrowed things down to a couple of colors, and so you'll see that there's some places where there's paint kind of being sampled in different spaces along that hallway. But we still do need some people to do the full work of making that place beautiful, June 7th and 8th. We will still be sharing a meal today, even though the rain has prevented us from having a picnic outside. We will still have a picnic inside, and Harry's Kitchen crew is preparing our main course downstairs. Many of you have brought side dishes and desserts to share for that, so that will still be happening. But first, we will have our annual meeting right here. If you are a member of the congregation, I invite you to stick around. If you need a bio break, then that's fine and all of that, but we don't want to take a whole lot of time. We'll just move smoothly into our annual meeting so that we can get to picnic lunch together. If you are not a member of the congregation, you are welcome to stay as well. You just won't be able to vote. And I think those are all the announcements for today. May we go forth and recognize that this world we share, this place has good bones, and we can make it beautiful. Each of us. May we be so bold. Amen, and blessed be. even though we're having an annual meeting, this is still sacred time, and we are still a sacred community. So we're going to leave the chalice lit during the time that we have for the annual meeting. We'll extinguish it at the end of that time. And I'm not sure if we need any other preparatory words before we get